Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the NerdPub Podcast. We invite all of you guys just to grab a drink and join us for some nerd talk. Before I introduce my special guest today, I just want to say, hope that all of you are staying healthy out there, and staying well, and just taking care of yourselves, and just washing your hands, doing what all you need to do to stay healthy. And more importantly, we're also hoping that you're staying safe. And today we're going to be talking about, with my special guest, I'll bring him in right now. We have Jeremy from Stupid Chainsaw Productions. How you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing pretty good, minus the messy room.
Yeah, mine's pretty messy too, so I just had to angle the camera just a little bit up. So
oh, there's no escaping it here. Although it's cleaner today.
Good.
I was cleaning the floor, which is why everything's up above.
Well, before we get started, Jeremy, you want to tell everybody about your channel and all the content that you put out there?
All right. Well, I have a channel called Stupid Chainsaw Productions, as it says in my banner. I review a lot of books. I make short films. I complain on my toilet. I used to complain on a treadmill when I had one. And then I still called the videos Tuesday Treadmill Talks. But they're not on a treadmill anymore. And I do various things here or there. I also have two podcasts. One is a Star Wars podcast called Star Wars Legends. And the other is the Backpedalers podcast, which is kind of dead at the moment, but we may get another episode of that.
Yeah, Jeremy has actually been nice enough to, he invited me on a couple of the Legends podcasts. Just want to say thank you for that.
You're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, and thank you for joining me on my podcast today. And today we're going to be talking about our top five, our personal, what we believe is the top five best and worst comic book movies out there. And I got my list, and Jeremy told me that he's got his list all prepared out there. So we're
you're super light.
But yeah, so real quick though, before we get started again, I'm gonna do a little. Oh, hey, Quality Autism, how you doing today? Thank you for joining us. I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys know that this Thursday, the plan is that me and Matthew Wilson from the Geeks Attic and Jeremy are going to be doing a trivia, and we might have a couple more on there. I've been in talks with a couple other people to join us, but we're doing a trivia night Thursday on my channel at Brian's Nerd Pub, and it's going to be fun. We're going to be mixing it between 4 different film categories, and we're going to, there will be a first prize for the winner, and hopefully it turns out to be a lot of fun and we can keep doing them. So it'll be this Thursday at 9 p.m. So be sure to join us for that, and hope to have a lot of fun doing that. So Jeremy, getting started, what do you believe is the absolute? Let's start off with the worst. I think that might be a little easier because there has been a lot of comic book movies out there that have really not impressed anybody. So I want to go ahead and get started with that. And what do you believe is your top 5 worst comic book films out there?
Okay, so you've thrown the curveball at me because there are certain things that are called comic book movies that I don't consider movies. There are certain things that have been made, such as like Batman and Robin, Steel, starring Shaquille O'Neal.
I do remember that.
Barbarella, and Tank Girl are the 4 main ones that are so awful that I can't say that they're films. I mean, so I won't rank them at the bottom of this. That being said, probably the worst comic book film I've ever seen is a tie. Am I allowed to tie right now?
Yeah, you could do ties. You could even do.
They're both written by Alan Moore. So.
Uh-oh.
It is a tie between Watchmen and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, you didn't like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen?
It makes no sense and doesn't really have a plot. but it resembles a movie and it's acted well. So I can't put it with the garbage that isn't considered a film. This was really hard for me to come up with because instantly, because we've made fun of it so much on my channel and the Geek Sags channel, Dark Knight Rises.
Oh yeah,
They're mainly because like it's horribly acted by like 90% of the cast except for Gary Oldman. And the score is terrible with the like
the basara or something. Yeah,
yeah, it's stupid, awful. Man of Steel was almost there because that's even worse than Dark Knight Rises or any of the Zack Snyder Justice League films. But I'm like, what's the Zack Snyder film that like started it all with the bad? And it's like it's Watchmen.
Quality Autism wants to guess that some of them are Catwoman, Batman and Robin, or Elektra.
I forgot Elektra was a film. Was considered a film.
I honestly forgot about that film too, and
Catwoman as well. I haven't thought of that.
I've never seen either Catwoman nor Elektra, so
I've seen both. I had a girlfriend who really liked Catwoman. She was a big Halle Berry fan.
The things we do for the girlfriend, huh?
I mean, yeah. Also, Suicide Squad would be in there.
For
another girlfriend.
I honestly forgot about that one too. But yeah, Quality Autism. Batman and Robin's also on one of my lists. That's actually my top worst comic book film, and it's not in any particular order. That's just at the top of my list. Yeah, that was just a horrible train wreck. Because
it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to say you're watching it.
I know. It's just like I kind of wanted to just while we're all in the quarantine that we're currently in right now. I was just like, hey, I'll just watch the Batman film series, and I was just like, maybe not Batman and Robin, and because I mean, it's just I mean. Uma Thurman's that's who played Poison Ivy, correct?
Yeah.
I didn't care too much for her acting in that.
Try. That's like the general consensus of things is most of those actors don't try.
And then they tried to do the whole Incredible Hulk treatment or on Bane, just like where he's just like a mindless monster, and I'm just like, that's not Bane. He's genuinely a intellectual and physical threat to Batman, and you don't get that.
Cuban.
Oh yeah, he did come from a.
It's that his dad was part of the Bay of Pigs invasion, and that's why his mom was imprisoned.
Yeah, and he had to serve his father's life sentence. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quality Autism. That's also the worst "I'm Batman" line ever. Hey, Freeze, I'm Batman. And not to mention all of Mr. Freeze's lame ice puns and everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, all right, everyone, chill. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you got that stupid, tension between Batman and Robin. But, honestly, that's probably, as much as it's stupid, that's the closest thing to the comics because Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson always had that tension. So that's probably the only thing that the film did right.
Yeah. Ish. It's so childish. It's a very childish film. That being said, it's ranked higher in the trash category than like in the better scale of the trash category than other things like Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
Oh yeah, I actually recently watched. That's not even in my list, but I recently watched the director's cut, and cool party, from one of another Mr. Freeze lines.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the director's cut is like a whole different movie. And for that, I will say that I actually enjoyed the director's cut a lot more than the original cut because it made a little bit more sense.
Yeah, it's easier to follow. Also, the Elektra director's cut is always recommended because Ben Affleck has a cameo as Daredevil in it.
Yeah, it's like when she stabbed him, right? Or
I don't remember.
I've never seen it, but
I've seen Elektra twice, and like I forget it. Like I bang my head against the wall until I don't remember anymore.
just like if I can't drown it out, I'll bang it out and everything. But so you said The Watchmen and Elektra and Batman and Robin, and what were the others that you mentioned?
Well, yeah, the number ones that I consider like worst film that are still considered a film would be a tie between Watchmen and The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, although it's really well acted, doesn't make any sense at all. It's just things happen.
There is a lot of James Bond knockoff in that, like
yeah, because you have Sean Connery as Alan Quartermain.
That and Moriarty that we find out isn't who disguised himself as supposed to be the Phantom of the Opera, I think, and he calls himself M, and then we hear Sean Connery go, "Oh, M." I'm like, oh, geez. It's like you can't have you have to have a James Bond reference in a Sean Connery movie, apparently.
Yeah, and then Tom Sawyer wasn't even in the comic, and then he's in this to have an American.
Yeah, I didn't read the comics. I've read about them though, and I knew that he wasn't in it. I mean, I knew that Harry Potter was in it, and apparently he was a villain in that comic book series, but I never heard anything about Tom Sawyer.
Well, I mean, that's later. That's when the comic series gets really awful. Like, there's several different like mini series. Read the original, and don't read any of the others.
Okay.
That's my recommendation, because it gets into Alan Moore being a crazy person territory and borderlines on when he wrote Star Wars comics in the nonsense department.
Yeah, I did remember. Geez, what was there was something about League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, or no, it was a Watchmen. I'm sorry, I never actually seen the Watchmen, but I do know that all I remember from it is that there's like a quote from the trailer where it was a guy like in a fedora and a trench coat, and he says, "Someday the world is going to ask us for help, and we're going to say no." And
that's Rorschach.
Oh, that's his.
I think that's Rorschach. It's been a long time. Well, the problem with Watchmen, the movie, aside from it's a Zack Snyder film and looks like a Zack Snyder film for the worst, is it ends differently than the comic, and the ending is not very impactful at all. And then things go back to the comic book ending. Like, there's an event that happens in the comic that's like truly like messed up and really awful, and it's how the characters proceed with like the end stuff that's like really defines their characters. Well, that the characters do the same thing, but it's not this event. It's sort of something else kind of happens in it, and I get why they decided to change the ending to make it more modern, I guess, and not as Alan Moore, but it doesn't work.
Now, this actually has a HBO series now, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's sort of like, it's not like it follows the comic, but it's like its own entity that's going on alongside the comic, or is a pseudo sequel. They've done so much with Watchmen. Alan Moore is really upset because he doesn't own the rights to the property. I mean, the Watchmen's tied into the DC universe now.
Yeah, I did hear about that. That like there's this big doomsday event in the comics or something like that. I didn't even.
Doomsday is what I call it. Just leave Watchmen alone.
Let's see. We got some. Watchmen is a movie that only gets some visuals from the comic, right? But nothing else. Asks Quality Autism. Yeah. Well, I do have a couple of others. Oh, yeah. We have to mention this one because it was complete garbage, and it's X-Men Origins Wolverine is another one of mine.
Oh, yeah. I would go as far to say that there's only 3 good X-Men movies.
Yeah, there's
including Wolverine movies. There are 2 good Wolverine movies and Actually, one of those Wolverine movies would be in my top 5 best.
That's if it's the same one, it's in mine too. So,
But they're from the Fox like Mutants line. The majority of it's crap, starting with X3. Like X-Men Last Stand is bad. The sad thing is X-Men Last Stand is better than a lot of what's come out since.
yeah, I mean, I liked Last Stand before Dark Phoenix.
Ooh, yeah, that borderlines on not a film.
It was, I mean, that was just such a disappointing
That they screwed up that storyline twice.
And it makes the first film not even make sense because I mean, there was like memes going like, how are we supposed to believe that Professor Xavier goes from looking like James McAvee from like in the early 90s until like 2000 looking like Patrick Stewart? And I'm just like, or, Michael, what's his name? Rosen.
Well, the thing is, you got to remember X-Men came out in 99, the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But set in the not so distant future.
Oh, so it's maybe a little bit later than we thought.
Also, the timeline has changed since Days of Future Past.
It's kind of like that Deadpool quote, like, these timelines are so confusing.
Yeah, the Deadpool films.
But it's just X-Men Origins Wolverine. It's just, I was excited about it because I like the idea, like, yeah, we're finally going to see his origin. And it was just, I mean.
Well, do you remember the X-Men Origin comics?
No.
So I thought these were really cool. They did these, I want to say early 2000s, and they did all these origins. And only anyone remembers Wolverine's origin because that one got flushed out. Like, it got flushed out the most.
Mm-hmm.
And they did Origins. They did Origins 2, which I think I actually reviewed on the Stupid Chainsaw Productions channel years ago while it was coming out.
Actually, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was not that good. Spoilers. The first Origins is really good.
Actually, I do remember the Origins. I remember my cousin had an Origins of a Nightcrawler, and I read that. So,
yeah, a lot of them were interesting and fun. So I assumed when Origins Wolverine was coming out, and I think this was the idea, was they were just going to go and do these solo movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Origin series.
Yeah, I heard that after they were wanting to do Gambit, and I don't think that film's ever going to see the light of day now. But
they even set up Gambit.
Yeah, I know. And
in Origins Wolverine.
Let's see, we got a comment. They rebooted. Quality Autism says they rebooted their X-Men timeline with Days of Futures Past and immediately destroyed the timeline again. Yeah,
we're getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there. But yeah, it's just when the claws were even CGI and they looked horrible. That was the worst effects I've ever seen.
Yeah, the claws.
And
why is Will.I.am in a movie?
He was the guy that teleported, right?
Yeah. Well, who decided that Will.I.am was good casting?
I'm not too familiar with him, so I'm not really. He was
from the Black Eyed Peas.
Oh, okay.
He's one of them.
And not only that, it was just whenever Hugh Jackman or Wolverine gets his claws, he does that obvious roar that sounds like him yelling "roar," and I'm like, oh my gosh! And it's just it wasn't really constructed well, and obviously, they messed up Deadpool, and that's what a lot of people were happy about. And I mean, that little weird sword thing he did where he
has no mouth.
Yeah, and they took away, the one thing that makes Deadpool.
The merc with the mouth.
Exactly. And it's just, yeah, so I mean, and I didn't really like that they made Sabretooth and Wolverine brothers. I don't know if that's how they are in the comics, but it's just
that depends on what author you're reading.
Oh, okay.
Like what we've talked about many times, Marvel changes their continuity every 10 years, it seems like.
Let's see. Oh yeah, they wanted to do X-Men Origins Magneto too, and it became First Class, which that is true.
First Class is the last good X-Men movie.
That was actually pretty good. I like that one, man.
Fun until like the end, and then it became not fun anymore. But like for the most part, them like becoming the first X-Men, that was fun. And then Days of Future Past bungled it up, although it wasn't that bad. What's her face? Who's Mystique?
Oh,
Jennifer Lawrence, maybe the worst actress I've seen since Kristen Stewart.
Oh, you don't like Jennifer Lawrence?
Oh, she's terrible in just about everything she does.
No, I thought that she does pretty good.
Starting with Days of Future Past, because she was under contract to do these films, and her acting gets worse every time. Like once you get to Apocalypse, which Apocalypse is a dumpster fire of a film.
I think with those two films, it's like the best things about it were the Quicksilver scenes.
Yeah, that and the Wolverine fan service in what was it, in Apocalypse.
Yeah,
what we wanted in X-Men Origins Wolverine and didn't get.
Yeah, that was a better cameo than his cameo in First Class was hilarious, where he just tells him, to F off, and then
which then becomes a sad joke in Days of Future Past.
Yeah, they did I'm surprised that, Charles Xavier remembered a guy from like 10 years ago that he met at a bar, but I was gonna say, yeah, is this with X-Men Origins Wolverine, they just really screwed it up, and it's just the X-Men movies, like you said, like they were just hit and miss from that point.
Yeah, then you got the Wolverine came out between did the Wolverine come out after First Class?
Yes.
The Wolverine, that unrated cut is so good.
I haven't seen the unrated cut. I'll have to.
It's basically the same cut, but they put a bunch of CG blood in.
Oh, okay.
And it's really funny because of that. But it's the precursor to what Logan would be.
Oh, gotcha.
Also, it's very much similar to the first Wolverine like limited series, where Wolverine goes back to
Japan.
Mm-hmm. And I love it.
Yeah,
but I love it.
And I know that in that movie they finally show Wolverine's classic costume, which he never wears.
Yeah, they do, don't they?
In a deleted scene, I think. But okay, so moving on to my other top worst. Let's see. I've already mentioned Batman and Robin, X-Men Origins. So I'm gonna go back in time here a little bit to the 70s and 80s, and these is actually two films: Superman 3 and 4.
Superman 4 is it's trash, but I find it to be one of the funniest films I've ever seen, and I love it.
It's bad, but it's amusing at the same time. But it's just
3, I don't remember. I remember there's some awkward comedy in it.
They tried to make it more of a comedy, but it turned out horrible. And like they have a clone evil Superman. I think I haven't seen it like all the way through. I just know of certain parts, but I couldn't even get through the whole movie. It was just so bad. And like I said, they tried to make a comedy of it, and Lois Lane is only like a cameo appearance in it.
Yeah, she's cut from the film substantially.
And then in Superman 4, Quest for Peace, it's just, I mean, you get that weird, trashy romance novel villain called Nuclear Man, voiced by Gene Hackman. And it
is Gene Hackman.
It was, and then it's him doing his famous roars and everything, and he just like saying "Destroy Superman," and I'm like, it's just, and then we find what also makes it bad is just you find out about it's just apparently Superman has every sort of, it's like he has Batman's utility belt and like in his DNA, like no matter what problem it is, he has the 60s Batman utility belt where he has a solution for everything. Like it's just like, oh, this building was destroyed, I'll just use my repair vision to repair it. And
have you seen Supergirl?
I have not.
Okay, Supergirl's worse. Supergirl is borderline not a film.
I haven't seen it, and I do know that there's they wanted Superman to come back for a cameo, but then he was just like, no.
Oh
And then,
yeah, but they ran out of money, and the end, like monster Supergirl fights, is invisible.
oh yeah, I do remember that. That I remember. I think we were talking about that on the.
Because it's the most baffling thing I've ever like seen. Of like, oh man, we ran out of money. We still got to make this movie though.
At times like that, just if you just don't have the budget, or just if all hope is lost, just like oh, hold on, there we go. My tablet screen went black. So just do what the Marvel did with that unreleased Fantastic Four movie, and just be like, you know what, it's probably better to not release this.
Well, that Fantastic Four movie is the best Fantastic Four movie ever made.
Oh, have you seen the?
Yes, I have.
I didn't know they released it.
It used to be on YouTube.
Oh, it did. I've never seen it.
I saw it a long time ago, and it is the most charming thing I've seen. Because like you have to understand, back in those days, Marvel couldn't make a good film. They had like a straight to, I don't think it got a theatrical release, the Dolph Lundgren Punisher movie.
Oh, I remember that one.
That was probably their best hit. They had two 70s Captain America films no one remembers.
I've seen the first one, and where he had like the fake ears on his mask.
No, that's the 90s Captain America.
Oh, that was oh, okay.
The 70s one, he has a motorcycle helmet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they did two 70s Captain America movies, and then the 90s one's really bad. And they did this Fantastic Four movie. It was never released. It was made so that they could hold on to the rights to the film. And then they made those terrible. They did ones with Jessica Alba.
Oh yeah, those.
Woman. And then they did the even worse remake with Max Teller.
Yeah, that was actually, I forgot. That was actually supposed to be in my list. Those were that was a complete train wreck of a film. I didn't like that they were all kids. I didn't like that they didn't go to space. They just went to like an alternate dimension or something like that.
It was Ultimate Fantastic Four there.
I haven't read Ultimate Fantastic Four, so that's what they were trying. Oh, I've only read.
Thing is, spoilers, at the end of that series, Reed Richards becomes like a villain for the Ultimate Universe, Marvel Ultimate Universe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's the only like interesting thing about that film. Not that film. That the Ultimate's Fantastic Four is his outcome.
Yeah, here you go. Quality Autism actually. He agrees with you. He says, just like the Alba movies and the Teller movies, all just made to hold the rights.
Yep. Well, now Disney has them, so
yeah. And I hope Disney does better with them. I hope he does them. I hope they do them justice, because, I mean, I actually find this story of the Fantastic Four themselves intriguing. It's like the best versions of the Fantastic Four that we got are not even the Fantastic Four, it's the Incredibles.
Yeah, I mean, that's very much so. For film, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I think one of the worst ones, in my opinion, is Hulk, but directed by Ang Lee.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. I haven't thought about that since 2002.
I mean, it's just I like some of the effects in it, like the fight scenes with the army. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool for 2002, but have you watched it now?
No, I don't want to.
I don't think there's such a thing as a good Incredible Hulk film.
I like the one with Edward Norton. I mean, I like
what? It's so garbage.
You did. I
couldn't believe that they kept that in canon in the MCU.
I know that they were actually trying to base it more off the 70s one. Like, they played the theme and Hulk starring Shrek. That's hilarious. Yeah, the Hulk.
That was, oh God, who was that? Who was the bodybuilder that was Hulk?
Oh, Lou Ferrigno.
Lou Ferrigno. They made some made-for-TV movies.
Yeah, I've actually met Lou Ferrigno at Comic-Con. And
you really?
I did, yeah. He was really nice.
But there was Thor in one of those.
And Daredevil in the other one, yeah.
And Kingpin, and they actually made a Doctor Strange pilot. That was going to be their next series, but it bombed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really bad, by the way. It's really boring.
I know that
it was the Doctor Strange film.
I do know that Bill Bixby wanted to do an Incredible Hulk movie with the 70s Spider-Man movie series that they had. But I think Bixby got sick at that point and he couldn't make them anymore. I can't quite remember, but I know that it just didn't work out. But yeah, it's just the Hulk movie is just Eric Bana's acting was horrible. It's just it was so.
Well, as I recall, all of the acting is either wooden or over the top.
Over the top. That was the term I was thinking. Yeah. I think the best actor in that was probably Jennifer Connelly.
Is she in that?
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen this like all the way through since it was in the theaters in 2002.
Actually, no, I take besides her, Sam Elliott was also the better actor, like as that Thunderbolt Ross. I thought he did really good with the role.
I thought he was over the top in it.
Really? I didn't think so.
Like thinking back, it's very hard for me to remember who is Hulk fighting at the end.
His father.
Okay, that's what I thought. Is that actually like a Hulk villain? I'm not a big Hulk.
I will say the Hulk movie made me a Hulk fan just because I like the story, but I didn't like the movie. I don't think his father is a villain. I do know that like his father like gets the ability to absorb elements around him.
Yeah, because he like tries to drown the Hulk. I remember that, and I was like, oh, "This is weird."
Because he's trying to absorb the Hulk's energy or something. I'm not quite sure, but then he tries, then he does, and then it backfires on him. But it was just they tried to make it a moving comic book, and it did not do well at all. It was just like confusing because then you're like looking all over the place, and it's just I mean Spider-Verse pulled it off very well, but
I've not seen Spider-Verse.
Okay, I won't spoil it then. I recommend that one. It's just like you said, the acting was over the top. It's just some scenes, although the action and the CGI effects were cool, they were kind of drawn out.
Yeah, it was really boring at times. I remember that.
Like the fight scene between those three dogs.
Yeah, that was strange. It looked bad. That looked bad at the time.
Yeah, and it was drawn out. I'm just like, come on, all right.
Throwing them in the tree, and then they're up in. As I recall, they're up in the tree.
Yeah, they jump.
How is Hulk in a tree?
That is true. He's pretty heavy, so I mean, oh, that's another thing. They made the Hulk like a 20-foot giant, and I'm like, he's only like 7 to 9 feet, I think. And
yeah, remember when he's hanging on the airplane? They go like into like the atmosphere, and then he falls.
And then they went into that dream scene that doesn't even make sense. I'm just like, okay, we're just seeing this for what reason? Like where Bruce Banner's just shaving, and then we just see the Hulk like reach through a mirror and.
Well, because that was in the trailer.
Oh yeah.
They decided they could put that in the movie.
Hold on, Quality Autism said some. Fun fact: Ang Lee, the director, wanted the Hulk to fight completely naked.
Well, that makes sense. Because how does Hulk's pants stretch?
I know they made it to where it was like his boxers or something, and I'm like, and I thought that he was naked in one scene where he fights the dogs. I thought like
he gets his pants ripped off.
Yeah. Oh my, but yeah, I was also gonna. Here's another horrible movie that starred Ryan Reynolds, and I wasn't talking about like the Deadpool movies. I was talking about Green Lantern.
Oh yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, I can't even remember it. I know that
the suit looks bad.
The suit was bad. Yeah, they even make fun of it in the Deadpool movies, and in fact, they make fun of. That's just kind of an ongoing joke in the Deadpool movies. It's just making fun of the Green Lantern movies. And it's just when another universe of films makes fun of it, you know it's bad.
Yeah.
But I think that's now probably a good time to segue into what we think is the best movies. And we might actually, like, I think we all might disagree with like some of our choices, but I mean, that's just fun to have a civil discussion about it. I think one of the best ones that came out recently was like within like the last 3 to 4 years was Logan.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Can I just say what I consider like material for a good comic book movie?
yeah, I was actually going to mention mine too. Go for it.
It has to be a good film.
Mm-hmm.
And then you realize, oh, it's a comic book.
Yeah.
Logan, it doesn't feel like a comic book movie. There is one exception to this, which I'll get to as the best comic book movie. But like typically they need to feel like a film first. And then you're like, oh, it's a comic book. You know?
Yeah. And then I do also remember in Logan, they actually brought comic books within a comic book movie.
Yeah, that was funny how they tied that together. Even though they're not actual X-Men comics, they made those up for the movie.
Yeah, because I know that the X-Men become like celebrities in those films. And so even he was just like, what, only a quarter of this stuff happened? And
not the way it was written. Just the amount of swearing and just the misery.
It's just that, though, I will say that was probably the most Wolverine type movie that I've ever seen. Like, I actually believe that this was like a Wolverine comic movie because it showed, just how much he suffered as an individual. Like he carries the memories of all the bad things he's done, and it just, I mean, all the pain that he endures from losing all of his loved ones. And it's just,
well, there's no one left. It is a bleak film.
Yeah. And I mean, he's very isolated, and, Wolverine as a character in general is a very isolated type character because he doesn't, although he associates with the X-Men and everything, he's always kind of been the loner.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he is typically somewhat the loner in this film, I mean, it's still a miserable life for him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until he, spoiler alert, sorry, finds out that, bonds with his daughter, that, he actually feels, like happiness and everything. And,
mm-hmm.
and, the scene where at the end, another spoiler alert, where, he dies, it was just like, that was actually really a heartbreaking death scene.
For me, Charles Xavier's ending was horrifying.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you kill a character. Just so nasty.
I know. I thought he was just gonna die like that scene in the hotel where he's having like an aneurysm, I think,
mm-hmm.
or a stroke or something. And I thought that was gonna be it. And it's just, honestly, that was just like an insulting end to Professor X.
I loved it. It was so awful, and it was like, okay. This is the brutality that it sums up the film completely as tone.
Mm-hmm.
And just what happens to that whole family.
Oh yeah, that was horrible. And that's another thing. Like, even when Wolverine tries to help people, it ends up hurting them at the same time. And that's just, and like, this is like the first film where we see stuff like that, where he tries to do the right thing, and then he finds out that that also happened in X-Men Origins, like where he was, when people showed him kindness and everything and they were killed like 10 minutes later. It's just, Hugh Jackman's performance was really good in that film. I loved it. And I mean, it wasn't as action packed as most of the other X-Men movies. And I think, like, honestly, like, the term less is more is directly implied to this movie, and it definitely delivered.
Yeah. I want to throw one out there. It's not my favorite. Well, I'm going to throw two out there because I think they're on par with one another.
Go for it.
Spider-Man 2.
That's actually one of mine too.
Spider-Man Homecoming.
Definitely Spider-Man 2. I was kind of iffy about Homecoming, but go ahead.
So Spider-Man 2 is it was, in my opinion, the perfect Spider-Man movie until Homecoming came out. I have not seen Far and Away or Far Away.
Far from Home.
Far and Away is the Tom Cruise movie where he has a horrible Irish accent. It is a film. He's an Irish immigrant, and they decided that he should do an Irish accent. It is awful. And I love Tom Cruise, but this movie's bad. Spider-Man 2 was everything that the first Spider-Man wasn't. It's a serious movie. It balances out Spider-Man giving up and stuff. All the themes in it are just wonderful. And then we had a series of trash films. It started with Spider-Man 3. And then the Amazing Spider-Man movies would go in that junk category of they're not films. They hurt my eyes.
I actually did enjoy the first Andrew Garfield film, but I will agree that Spider-Man 3, it was messy.
It was messy.
It was.
It weren't necessarily. They have their problems, and they're really goofy Sam Raimi movies, but at the time, you didn't have all these MCU films to compare them to.
Yeah, it was just all the focus was on Spider-Man, yeah.
Yeah, in fact, the only Marvel movies that have been successful were X-Men and Blade.
Yeah, Blade.
Blade's up here in the top. Because it paves the way for a lot of things, and I love it.
But yeah, I do agree. Spider-Man 2 actually brings back a bunch of nostalgia for me because I remember I love the story. I like the when it comes to a Spider-Man film, I want to see Peter Parker struggle.
Mm-hmm.
And
he just gets fired from 2 jobs, and it's happy birthday, Pete.
And then not only that, he loses his powers and he doesn't know why. And they still don't explain why. It was just mostly he didn't want to be Spider-Man. So I was okay. But the acting wasn't too over the top. It was.
Yeah, it's the best acted by far.
Yeah. They, Spider-Man 3 gave us emo Peter Parker dance instantly.
That's not as bad as "Dear God, please help me kill Peter Parker."
Oh, Eddie Brock.
Yeah, right. It's Topher Grace, Eddie Brock.
I have no idea.
Movie.
I was in my recent podcast with my friend Tanner. We were talking I would have been okay with Eddie Venom being in the film as long as maybe at the end of the movie of Spider-Man 3 after he defeats the Sandman and maybe another villain that wasn't Venom. That's when he goes to the church and gets the symbiote, and then
that was a better climax. And then he forgives Sandman.
Yeah,
but instead because first of all, I know they set it up, and that's what Sam Raimi initially wanted because he didn't want to put Venom in Spider-Man 3.
No, he didn't.
I know it's clear he wanted the new Green Goblin, which is the worst part of that whole film. Everyone says the Venom part's bad, and it is, but the new Green Goblin stuff is just it's who is that actor? Why am I
James Franco?
James Franco is trying to be Willem Dafoe from the first film for the first half of it, and it's just he's it's bad.
I just wish that they actually made him the Hobgoblin and not just, I don't know, they called him the Proto Goblin or something, and it was just what the heck? He didn't even look like a goblin.
No, he looked like a ninja.
Like a ninja sky surfer or something.
Snake Eyes or whatever. Yeah, Joe.
But no, I totally agree. Spider-Man 2 just it had that struggle of Peter Parker. Nothing he does worked out for him. And I love that in a Spider-Man story because that's the story of Spider-Man. Nothing he does works out for him. Even though he tries to do the right thing, it always comes back and hurts him in some way or hurts other people. But he still keeps going forward. He might go ahead.
No, I love it. And I love Doc Ock's in it.
Yeah.
You notice I haven't touched him since.
Yeah, I actually heard this rumor, and it may have just been a meme that just got too much attention than I think it was supposed to get. But there was like, we should cast Mark Hamill as Doc Ock in the MCU.
I don't know.
I could see it, but I don't think they will. I know that they
want to.
I don't. Maybe not. I mean, yeah, I probably not. I mean, it was just. I know that they were going to have Doc Ock in the Amazing Spider-Man movies, but all they showed was the tentacles.
Well, yeah, they were going to have a Sinister Six movie
mm-hmm.
That no one wanted. But how'd you feel in Amazing Spider-Man 2 when they just took the origin story for the Riddler and Batman Forever and just made it Jamie Foxx's Electro?
Oh, yeah.
Only dumber?
Yeah, they made him like a unappreciated person, and they like people just kept treating him like crap, and then I felt bad for his character. I didn't like that rendition of Electro,
It was just weird. It was weird. Why was Paul Giamatti the Rhino? Why was the Rhino in it?
I don't know. I would have been okay if he was
in a Rhino mech suit.
I would have been okay with it if it was just that scene where he stops him in the semi. I would have been okay with that, but just that mech suit, like, no, that's not it. Rhino is stuck in that suit. That's
how many times does Gwen Stacy fall? Doesn't die. She falls like thousands of feet in like total over and over again. And then finally she gets killed.
Yeah, that was probably the saddest part of the whole. I mean, it was supposed.
Yeah, no, it's a really downer movie, which is why I hated it. I've only seen it once.
I will say though, Andrew Garfield's acting in that scene was pretty good.
Well, no, he's fine. In fact, he's a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire, but Tobey Maguire is a better Peter Parker than he is.
Thank you. I said that in my last. I totally agree. I said that in my last podcast. It's just he's a better Spider-Man, but Maguire is Peter Parker for the win. I'm just like, because that's another thing in Spider-Man films is I want Spider-Man to be annoying, and he wasn't annoying in the Maguire films.
Yeah, no, he has to have the one-liners.
It's just I want to believe that he's running his mouth off, but like there's a thought bubble from a comic book with him saying like, "Oh crap, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die," but he still fights anyway. It's just I don't really get that with the Maguire films, but
that and the webs are explained better.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's an oversight. Sam Raimi didn't care, but like. I did. I was like, "Where's his web cartridges?" It was 2001, and I'm like, "Well, 2002 when the first one came out." Like, where are cartridges? I've watched the '90s Spider-Man cartoon. I know he's got those.
Yeah, I've been watching it too, like on Disney Plus.
It's so bad.
The '90s cartoon.
It gets really bad about halfway through it, and they start reusing animation. Just wait.
Oh yeah, I do remember. I've seen quite a bit of it growing up, but they do reuse it. Man, I wish you hadn't pointed that out. Now I'm gonna start.
Dude, you would have saw it anyway. It's so blatant near the end where they just didn't have money.
That's like, I know that Disney reused animation quite a bit, so it's just like it was now that Disney owns Spider-Man. Well, the character, it's like it was meant to be.
Yeah, but Homecoming was such a breath of fresh air because at this point you have to go to my mindset. We had seen, to me, phase 2 of the Marvel MCU was not that great. It was okay. We had the Avengers, which was the weirdest team up idea I'd ever heard of. I said, man, I don't think that's going to work. And it did. Avengers worked real well. But I'm like, they can't really do anything from here. And then we had a bunch of mediocre sequels. And then we had a second Avengers movie that I didn't like.
Well, actually, it was one of the sequels that I really enjoyed. It was Winter Soldier. That's actually on my list.
Well, I mean, Winter Soldier's fine as like an action film. I prefer since I've rewatched them, I prefer the first Captain America movie.
Oh yeah.
It's got the best villain.
Oh yeah.
Red Skull, which is the best Captain America villain in general.
I like that actor. What's his name? Hugo. He was in the Lord of the Rings movies. I can't.
Yeah,
Hugo.
he was Elrond, and he was also Mr. Smith in the Matrix.
Oh, Quality Autism has to leave. See you later, Quality Autism. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
See you, dude. It's got to be really late for him. He was on our solo commentary. It was 6 a.m.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh, we were up. It must be probably like 3 o'clock in the morning there or something.
Yeah, but anyway, but we got to Captain America: Civil War, and I said, "Oh no, how are you supposed to follow up Infinity War?" Which I'm still wondering how they're going to follow up Endgame. I'm not looking forward to it.
Oh, you mean Age of Ultron? Because that was the follow-up to it, wasn't it?
No, I mean, we knew Infinity War was happening.
Right,
we
right.
knew that from the end of the Avengers. And it just got pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And I'm like, by this point, I was like, okay, so what you do, in my mind, this is in phase 2 mind, so probably around the time Thor: The Dark World came out, after Age of Ultron, because we knew that was happening at this point. We're like, okay, we'll have Infinity War, then we'll have Civil War, and then we'll have Avengers versus X-Men, because 20th Century Fox and Disney will be like, we need to make a ton of money and we'll work together. Well, we got Civil War way too early, and it was a pile of trash.
The film or the comic?
The film.
Oh.
The comic is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read in my life. That's the best Marvel event that's ever been.
The film Civil War, the film was
but we got Spider-Man out of it. And then we had the Spider-Man movie, and I was curious about it, and I bought the Blu-ray set of all of the previous Spider-Man movies, and I got a ticket to see Homecoming.
Oh yeah.
So I went and saw Homecoming, and I was like, oh my god, this movie is wonderful. And it's on par with Spider-Man 2 in my mind.
The only part of it that I didn't really... here's what I loved about it. It's one of the only Spider-Man films that completely takes place in New York, except for that scene in Washington. Because all the other Spider-Man appearances or films, he's either in space or he's in Europe or something. And I'm just like, we haven't got a full Tom Holland film that takes completely in New York, except with the possible exception of Homecoming, because he's most of the time in New York. But it's just... and then the other thing is, I like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He does really well. And I just don't like that this version of Spider-Man is spoiled. Because he's got...
It is weird. It is very bizarre. It works to me. It's different because we had 2 of the same, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not going to bring back Tobey Maguire unless they do... What is that Spider-Man event? Well, if they did... They already did that sort of thing with the animated Spider-Man movie that came out.
The Spider-Verse?
Spider-Verse. If they ever did a live-action Spider-Verse, then they would do that. And set up the multiverse. That would be fun if we had a multiverse event and you just brought in Thomas Jane as the Punisher, for instance. That's a fun one. That's in my top list. Is the best Punisher film.
Yeah, we got that Punisher Warzone movie that was horrible.
I don't mind it in the grand scheme of bad Marvel movies because it's so brutal and disgusting. I find it funny.
It gets cheesy though.
Jigsaw into a glass breaking machine and then turns on and he survives. That is so funny to me because I'm a fan of the Marvel Max, and that is the closest they've ever gotten to a Marvel Max anything.
This is an honorable mention for worst, but have you seen Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance?
I love Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance.
Oh, you loved it? I
love those directors. They made the Crank films,
which
are nonsense. And the thing is, the first Ghost Rider movie is just garbage. But Nicolas Cage really loves that character, and I appreciate that.
He actually, I think, has a tattoo of Ghost Rider.
Yeah, it was the height of the Nick Cage ego, Ghost Rider.
Go ahead.
Rider. Well, you remember Ghost Rider? They CG his head on a younger man's body in that shirtless scene. That is not Nick Cage's body. That is the body of like someone my age. Nick Cage's head. It's like when they made Captain America small. They CG'd his face on like a child.
I didn't know that about Ghost Rider. Like they CGI'd him on a muscled up body or something.
Yeah, like on a younger man's body. Because I mean, because Nicolas Cage is probably in his 40s when they made the first one, at least, if not his 50s. He's not going to look like that. No matter how much oiling you put on there, he's never been unless he had been in that shape forever. Like Sylvester Stallone looks pretty similar in physique to what he looked like in his prime because he's never gotten out of shape. Like, he looks different now because he's in his 70s, but like for years he looked physically the same. From like the 80s to like the 2000s. But like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for instance, got fat when he became governor of California and had to get back into shape. And he doesn't look like what he did in like prime. Also, that's what steroids do to you. That's what he did. He was Mr. Olympia.
Well, the thing is, with Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, like, I enjoyed it. It was more of like a guilty pleasure type movie, just because it was Ghost Rider and it was a lot more darker than the first one, so that's why I liked it. But then, like, as I watched it again, I'm just like, it's like a...
Oh, it's stupid.
I was going to say, it looks like they tried to make a heavy metal acid-tripped music video, and it failed.
Well, that's their style. If you've seen, like, Crank, where it looks like cheap and like a reality show at times.
It's just Nicolas Cage's acting was horrible in that film.
He was acting like I think that's how he acts in his house when he's alone. He's just a crazy person. It's like the Not the Bees scene in The Wicker Man. But the whole film, and I love it. 5 a.m. Quality Autism said when he jumped off.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it was freaking just that movie's insanity, and he's like urinating fire at the beginning, and you know from there that what you're getting into is just going to be sheer trash.
What I did like from it though is that I don't think this is in the comics, but they made it to where whatever Ghost Rider like rides, changes with and he gets in that crane or something, and I was like, I thought that was actually pretty cool.
I appreciate that. I know that there was a different Ghost Rider for a while in the comics, like in the 2010s, and he had a muscle car.
Oh yeah. That one's actually in the Agents of Shield show.
Oh, is he? Okay.
Yeah, it's a Hispanic character. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, that was when they were doing their diversity thing in Marvel Comics, which seems to have fallen apart.
The Johnny Blaze cameo actually does appear in that as a cameo. But they don't Ghost Rider technically could be in the MCU. It's just he's just kind of doing his own thing, I guess.
Yeah, probably. The thing, because that was in that era when we had the Incredible Hulk, we had Iron Man and stuff, and it was like they haven't touched it yet.
Mm-hmm.
But they've touched Punisher because Warzone was made. I want to say Warzone was made after Iron Man came out.
I'm horrible with dates, so you might be right.
They were the same year, if I can be completely honest. Which Iron Man, that's in my top. That movie's solid.
Iron Man, yeah, that was a great film.
The sequel's not so much.
No.
2 is nice for having an AC/DC soundtrack and introducing that we get Avengers.
Do you know that 2 is actually the first MCU appearance of Peter Parker? That kid, it's like when all those those robots are attacking the city. Like you see this one kid in an Iron Man mask trying to stop them with his toy Iron Man glove.
Is this supposed to be Peter Parker?
I think they've confirmed that was Peter Parker.
That's goofy.
Yeah. I'm just like, I thought I also saw that there was going to be another one where he was with his aunt and uncle during the destructions of the Avengers movie, and Iron Man's shield gets thrown into like their car by accident, and he just like picks it up and hands it to Captain America. Or no, yeah, Captain America, not Iron Man. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Um,
The thing with Iron Man 2 is that someone found Mickey Rourke, and he doesn't look like a human being anymore.
I know. Like my old roommate from college said that he loves that film because he just wants to hear Mickey Rourke say, "I want my bird." You know.
I just like look at his face. That's not good. That's like a piece of meat that they carved a face out of. Like he's just because the thing with Mickey Rourke is Mickey Rourke was like a heartthrob kind of like in the late 80s and in the 90s. Like he looked human.
I don't know if I've ever seen him in anything else other than Iron Man 2.
Barflies.
What was that?
Watch Barfly.
Barfly?
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Okay, my next one in my list, I've already mentioned Logan, Spider-Man 2, Winter Soldier. I got two more in my best. I know you don't like this film, but I can't deny that I think it's great. But I know that you don't like it. It's Dark Knight.
Okay, Dark Knight. When I saw Dark Knight, I was shocked that a comic book movie could be that good. I think it's overrated. Not saying it's bad. Well, the score's bad. I will say that. And Christian Bale's acting as Batman is bad. But the rest of it's fine.
For like what I was going to mention, like what I want a comic book film, what I want in a comic book film to make me determine that it's really good or not is like, I want the hero to struggle.
Oh yeah.
And, and it's just hard to get that like in a Superman movie because he's got all these powers. And I mean, even in Man of Steel, like he had all that conflict, but it's just, but it's just with the Joker, like, it's just what I loved about it is that with the Joker, like anything could happen. Like that just also being his character. Like it's like a Batman said, it's not that simple. It never is with the Joker. And with Heath Ledger's performance, you totally get that because he's unpredictable. And even if you think you win, you realize you don't with this guy. And
I loved that it wasn't Jack Nicholson again.
Wait, was he supposed to come back for it?
No, but I mean, like they didn't try to. This was when I saw Dark Knight, I had not seen like the 60s Batman show, and I'd never seen Batman the animated series. The only Joker I knew was from '89 Batman, which is in my like top.
Oh yeah,
top tier. It's gonna be in both of ours. I know that.
Oh yeah.
But I didn't want that. And then like when the trailer dropped and he's just this disgusting like makeup clown that's a crazy person, like, okay, I can get down with this.
Well, yeah, it's this. I mean, I get what you're saying, by the way, that it wasn't the same performance type of Joker.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just, I love I know this is supposed to be a realistic Batman-ish, and you didn't with this Joker, he didn't laugh that much. He didn't have that maniacal laugh, but he did a couple of times, but like,
yeah, it was all earned. It was,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't over the top, and it was more terrifying than Jack Nicholson's Joker laugh, and it was just. With this Joker, like you can definitely tell that there was no reason, he was just all he wanted was chaos, destruction, and he wanted to do it, laugh about it, and then he wanted to go and top it. And like, that's why I think Heath Ledger, took the gold for the Joker, because that's who the Joker is. He'll cause so much chaos and turmoil, he'll laugh about it, and then he'll go out and do it some more to try to top it. So what?
Because he can. There's no motivation.
Yeah, and he even says that, like, the most sensible way to live in this world is with no rules.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, his performance was great. And I even loved that scene where Batman's beating the crap out of him in the interrogation scene. He's actually punching him, yelling, "Where are they?" when you find out he kidnapped Rachel and Harvey Dent. I read that that's Bale actually punching.
Yeah, they got really into that. I didn't like it was a Maggie Gyllenhaal was the recasting of Rachel. I was a fan of that.
I don't know why they recasted her, but I mean, I didn't have too much of a problem with it, but
she's a great actress. I liked the other Rachel for a made-up character for these films. I liked the casting of the other one.
Yeah, I was kind of interested. It was kind of interesting that they had to remake a new love interest because, Selena Kyle ended up being the love interest, and she's not even technically Catwoman in this universe. And
oh god, we were really talking about that film. Basically, after Heath Ledger's death, unfortunately, that was the only way. Like going that road was probably the best bet.
Oh,
I don't think they would have gone with Dark Knight Rises if Heath Ledger hadn't died.
Yeah, I think they may have. I don't know what they would have done.
For later, because I think Dark Knight Rises would have worked better if they were more Christian Bale Batman films.
Yeah, not necessarily a trilogy, like a series of films,
like 6.
Mm-hmm.
And you have the whole Rogues Gallery, and then you have your time to do your Nightfall, and then you have Christopher Nolan would have never done Robin. Unfortunately, he was not into that.
Well, I did read that Christian Bale didn't want Robin.
Well, also Christian Bale's the reason Christian Bale wasn't in Batman versus Superman. On too much money.
No. I also read that I honestly thought it was because when he was actually auditioned to play Robin in Batman Forever.
Was he really?
Yeah, I think I remember reading that, but I was like, "What?"
Then you did Newsies that bombed.
I've only seen like a clip of Newsies, but
it's awful.
No
plot.
But you talked about the score. You didn't care for the score, but
because Hans Zimmer can make better scores, and he just doesn't when he works with Christopher Nolan. It's like these 2-note scores, and I don't like it. And his obsession with French horns, like, get that out of here. It's like Kevin Kiner and bass drums in his Star Wars: The Clone Wars stuff. Like, I don't want that. It's too much.
I will say though, he had a great score for the Joker.
Yeah, I appreciate Dark Knight because it doesn't try to be Memento. Are you familiar with his film Memento? Memento's told backwards. That was his first film. It's also his only film I can think of that Hans Zimmer doesn't score. Memento's a good movie. The less I say about it, it's very violent and it's very graphic. So you're forewarned. But it's probably his best film. It's like with M. Night Shyamalan, where they made their best films first. And then it's like, what do you have left? Because like it seems most of the time Christopher Nolan is trying to remake a Memento in whatever he's working on. Like Interstellar's that way, Inception's that way. Batman Begins and Dark Knight Rises are that way, where it's flashback after flashback to the point where you can't remember where you were. And it's really irritating. And Dark Knight doesn't do that. Dark Knight plays it straight and it's refreshing.
Yeah.
It kind of worked in Batman Begins. I will give him that. He does it sparingly in that. But in Dark Knight Rises, there are so many flashbacks.
I will say this though, with Batman Begins, like you actually see Gotham City like from a bird's eye view, and It actually looks terrifying. And then we get into Dark Knight in the first clip. It's looks like just a normal city.
It looks like New York. Yeah.
And I'm just like, that Gotham City is supposed to be like desolate and well, not desolate, but like
Gross.
Yeah, gross and grungy and like and that was like another complaint I had with the Dark Knight, but that was like one of the only things is but
with Batman Begins, I will say this because the first hour of Batman Begins is what I've always wanted in a Batman movie, which is the training.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. And then when he puts the bat suit on, it's just not that good anymore.
You see, my favorite Batman villain is the Scarecrow.
I love the Scarecrow too.
And I don't know. I didn't like Cillian Murphy did great as the Scarecrow. I just didn't like the look.
Neither did I. And the grounded in reality didn't work for Scarecrow. The grounded in reality thing didn't work for a lot of things because it's called Batman.
Mm-hmm. It's just, I would have just been like, just give people powers, like make Bane like a hulking monster, like
Venom.
Oh, Venom.
Give him Venom. That's what he's
got. Oh yeah, Venom.
Through him.
Yeah,
he needs his laughing gas.
Yeah, like what was it he had like morphine in his mask that made him susceptible to pain or something?
I don't know what that was. But I don't like that they mixed his audio weird so he'd sound more menacing.
Oh, yeah.
Tom Hardy can't speak.
Yeah,
I hate how he speaks in every single movie he does. He puts on I don't know how he speaks normally because he's put on so many freaking different voices. It's like impossible to tell.
It's kind of like Andy Serkis. Like he's done so many motion capture. It's just like you didn't really know what he truly looked like at first
until Black Panther.
Yeah, I was just like, unless you looked him up or if you saw Black Panther, it's just like. But
well, that's one I wanted to talk about.
Black Panther.
Black Panther was very charming because it didn't try to be an MCU movie.
No, yeah, I've only saw it once, but I enjoyed it.
It's fun. I got to actually talk to the main storyboarder for the Marvel MCU. He came to my college.
Oh, nice.
And he talked about making the you remember in the beginning where they talk about the making of Wakanda?
Mm-hmm.
That whole animated stuff. He showed us the pre-render original version, which was 10 minutes long.
Whoa.
That he made. Because he essentially wrote most of it too, because most of those MCU movies, like I've suspected for a long time, they start making the big battles before they write a script.
Oh yeah, because got to get those out of the way.
Yeah, so the script's written around those. There's never a way to write a film.
I will say, this isn't my top, but it's one of them, and I really loved Infinity War. I thought it was one of the best just because it did what most other comic book films, like the Justice League. We won't even mention that one.
That's in that, like I said, in the trash category where you can't consider that a film. I will consider Infinity War a film.
It definitely did a good job of bringing all the characters together, and it made sense. And I
agree.
I'm sorry, what?
I disagree fundamentally.
You disagree?
Guardians of the Galaxy did not fit in there tonally. It didn't make sense. And when they were on screen and they did all the goofy stuff with Thor and stuff, it didn't work at all. In fact, all the jokes fell flat. But to be fair, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, in my opinion, every joke fell flat. Except for the joke that they let Kurt Russell sit in for his motion capture. So he had his old man Kurt Russell face, but with no wrinkles. That was the biggest joke of all of them, that someone said that was acceptable.
Also the Mary Poppins thing.
Oh, God. Yeah, that wasn't... I forgot that was in there.
Honestly, the best parts of that were the Rocket Raccoon and... what was it? Groot scenes, like with the bomb.
Oh, I don't remember.
Oh, it's just basically
Oh
Rocket.
yeah, no, he's running away, and he has like they don't know if he's got the switch, like the correct switch or whatever.
Well, he's trying to teach him to press this button, and Groove just is like, "Oh, he pressed this button." He's like, "No, this button," and then he runs away, not knowing which button to push. He's just like, "Uh oh," you know.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that was bad.
Well, I was gonna say like, but with Infinity War, what it did as good as a comic book film is that it kept upping the stakes. It's just like, not just for the heroes, but for like Thanos as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like that was neat. It's just it was too long, and you could tell right away Joss Whedon didn't direct it. You could tell that immediately.
I think the best line in that is when Thanos grabs that moon with the gauntlet and just throws it at everybody, and then Iron Man comes back and is like, "If you throw another moon at me, I'm gonna lose it." But it's just I liked it just because it gave us such a devastating ending. It's just like they fought so hard and valiantly and everything, and just
And they
it
did.
didn't it didn't matter. Just in the course of 2 minutes, he just undermined them, and then destroyed half the world. And with Endgame, it's just I liked it. It
I've
just
never seen it.
I won't say anything about it then. Um,
I kind of got it spoiled for me. So if you want to talk about it. I don't care.
no, well, it was just I mean, with the characters like that disappeared, we all knew they were coming back, and it's just
Yeah, because Black Panther did so well they couldn't leave him dead.
well, I mean that, and we just got Spider-Man back, so like we got him back for like a movie and a half, and they just killed him back, or they killed. But it's just how they went about it, bringing everybody back was just kind of a little letdown for me. But as the film itself, I enjoyed it. Um, but I was wanting to get into some honorable mentions, like that's not next technically in our list. Now, I haven't seen very many Dark Horse movies. I've seen Hellboy, and he's Dark Horse, right?
Yes, he's the one that
Okay, I've I've seen the two Hellboy movies. The first one was better in my opinion. I'm not a big Hellboy fan, but
I love them both.
So what?
I love them both. I love Guillermo del Toro and his vision.
I like Ron Perlman as
Oh
Hellboy.
yeah, perfect casting.
And I think what was the name of that Abraham? Yeah, my favorite part of the first one was when they're sensing this beast in this other room, and they said like, "Oh, we the creature is very angry and like very hungry." And he's just like, "Well," gets his gun, like, "Time for me to go say hi." And
yeah,
but the only other Dark Horse movies that I've seen, and when I found out how much they changed the origin of this film, I mean, I understand why they did it, but it was kind of a letdown. The Mask.
Oh god, I forgot. Yeah,
that was
fine. It's a fine movie.
It's a good Jim Carrey movie, but as a Dark Horse comic movie,
Son of Mask. No, that's not a film.
I've never seen it. Don't want to. My brother's seen it, and nope.
Nightmare Fuel.
And the other Dark Horse comic movie that I've seen is probably the Ninja Turtles.
That's not. Is that Dark Horse?
I thought it started out Dark Horse. Did it not?
I don't know who published.
I gotta look this up now. But
Ninja Turtles is a great film. The sequels aren't.
Yeah, I like my favorite's the original one. I mean,
because it's the only one that's kind of grown up, and Secret of the Ooze is very kiddie. I think people are very nostalgic about Secret of the Ooze, and everyone hates Turtles 3. And that's deserved. But
yeah,
Secret of the Ooze isn't that good either. With the not Bebop and Rocksteady.
Oh yeah, that was, what was it? It was Taka and Razor or something like that.
I don't know. Everyone just calls them Bebop and Rocksteady, even though they're not. But then they did the Michael Bay ones, and those are both really bad.
Oh yeah.
With Johnny Knoxville as Leonardo.
Yeah.
What? And of course, Megan Fox is in it because it's a Michael Bay film.
Okay, it wasn't Dark Horse that did the Ninja Turtles. Never mind, I take that back. Yeah,
AEW property now, but
yeah, it's just Michael Bay wanted to make them aliens, and that basically that was the Sonic the Hedgehog controversy of its time.
yeah, well, that and it's just they're not good.
No, I mean it's just like they're not aliens, they're turtles, and they even make fun of that in the film. They're just like, oh wait, so these turtles are aliens? Like, no, that's stupid. They're turtles. I'm like, thank you.
So dumb. But
then,
go on.
I was gonna say, like, when Michael Bay watched that, he's like, okay, I get it. Nobody liked it. But yeah, it's just when I first heard that Johnny Knoxville was playing Leonardo in the first one, I thought it was hilarious. I'm just like, oh, please start the movie. I'm like, hi, I'm Johnny Knoxville, and this is the Ninja Turtles.
Remember him in Men in Black 2?
Yes.
Remember how bad Men in Black 2 is?
I only saw Men in Black 2 because at the theater they were doing a showing of Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire one, afterwards. So,
that was the same year.
Yeah, I sat through it just so I could watch Spider-Man.
Men in Black 2 is just Men in Black, but not funny.
Yeah.
Except for there's a couple funny scenes in it, but it is very much the same. Also, Rip Torn is in it, and Rip Torn is my secret idol.
Oh, yeah.
The dude got so drunk one time that he tried to break into a bank thinking it was his house. That's not what I idolized. I mean, I've watched him like 5 times this last week by watching Freddy Got Fingered every day. That's what next episode we'll review Freddy Got Fingered.
We'll have to message Matthew about that now.
Yeah, that'll be our watch along.
Oh my gosh.
I almost wrote in the comments when he was putting that vote up, Freddy Got Fingered. Like,
oh, for the trivia. Oh, never mind. For his channel.
When we watched Solo last week.
Yeah. Geez, what's another?
I mean, Men in Black, I think technically is a comic book movie.
I didn't know that it was a comic book at first.
I think there was like a long time ago. But I never read it, so I cannot confirm that.
I know that on Disney Plus, like they have The Rocketeer, which I think was a comic strip.
Yeah, The Rocketeer, I'd put that as an honorable mention because that's a very charming film.
Yeah, it is. I'm actually wanting my wife to watch that because we watched Willow the other night, and I was like, "Oh, you got to check out The Rocketeer." It's like, I don't know. It's just I watched it as a kid. I'm just like, I thought that it was a very unique film, and it's like that type of classic age of superhero type film.
It came out at the wrong time, though.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it's a shame. I have a couple honorable mentions before we go into like our number one. 300.
Oh, 300. Yeah, I've seen that one. I didn't know that was a comic book film.
Yeah, that's a Frank Miller property.
Oh, I did not know that.
It's a Dark Horse property too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 300 it's nostalgic to me as the first R-rated movie I saw on the big screen. And oh man, that was rated R.
Yeah, I remember everybody in my junior high school class quoting it all the time. Like I was in track team, we were playing this game, and like each team, like they were all going like, "Oh, we're the Spartans" and everything.
I remember like just the graphic. It was so over the top graphic, and just the nudity was like so much. I had never seen that much nudity in a film. Knowing me now, the things I've seen now, it's kind of tame. But also the Leonidas sex scene that goes on for like 10 minutes, it feels like. They hit every position in the Kama Sutra. They have to.
Oh my god.
It's so long, and I was like, am I allowed to watch this? Because I was like 12. 11 or 12 when this came out. And I'm like, I'm seeing it with my dad. I'm like, he's not covering my face. I don't know how to react. So I covered my face, but then I was like, no, that's stupid. And like an uncover, but I'm like, this is not right. It was just like did this like really like childish thing during this film. Also, just remember when the guy's son gets beheaded and he's holding his headless son's corpse? Like
Yeah.
I said out loud, that's gross.
Well, you mentioned the violence and everything, and like I took a history class in college, and the history professor loves the Spartans, and apparently that wasn't too far off base about how brutal they were.
No, it wasn't. There are certain things that are not historically accurate in it. I watched like this whole History Channel documentary when it came out about it, and it was some of it's stylized from the comics to make it Frank Miller-y.
Mm-hmm.
This is in that era when Frank Miller stuff was really popular in that mid to late 2000s, which ended with him making The Spirit, which is not a film.
Oh, I've only seen like maybe 2 minutes of that.
Yeah, The Spirit is really bad. Someone decided Frank Miller could direct a movie.
I saw up to the point in The Spirit where Samuel L. Jackson punches someone with a severed head, and then I was like, done.
Oh yeah, it is stupid.
But yeah, geez. I think I may have already given my number. Well, I didn't give my number one, but I'll just say, like, I think.
Is it 89 Batman?
Yeah.
Yeah. I figured it's an honorable mention in mine along with Batman Returns, but it's.
I mean, it's got a great cast, great cinematography, great score. I mean, it just feels like you're watching a Batman film. And I mean, I was gonna say, I think we went off base with like, I think we're gonna do top 5. We're just like, let's just list every horrible or best comic book movie we've ever seen, and it's like, but no, 89 Batman was fantastic, and even Batman Returns, as far as sequels go, was great.
That's a great sequel.
Mm-hmm. This is Tim Burton
score, in my opinion.
Say what?
Better Danny Elfman score.
Oh, in the sequel, yeah, I liked it. I liked the choir that they brought into it at the beginning. It's just, I mean, it just made me like, and Danny Elfman, I mean, he did great with those films. And I just find out when I did a report over him in a film music class that I took in college. And it's just, he did not know like how to read music. Like, I think he was like in the Oingo Boingo band before he ever did film scores. Yeah. So what?
Yeah, he was part of Oingo Boingo.
Yeah, and it's just like he was just the lead singer, but then like Tim Burton says like, "Hey, I want to score for one of these movies." He's just like, "Wait, what?"
He scored he came up with the original Batman score on the plane after seeing the sets and some of the filming when they were in production for 89 Batman.
I did not know that.
He wrote it on napkins.
Oh wow!
And I can't imagine how crazy he looked coming up with that score.
Hey man, I mean, I've written music before, and sometimes like you got to get the closest thing you got. And I know that J.K. Rowling wrote Harry Potter on a napkin, so I mean, yeah. But yeah, it's just he said like in the report that he knew how to write music, but he just had trouble reading it, I think. But it's just. But I mean, that score is just so iconic. It is just like, especially that last where they're like ascending, the camera used like ascending up the top of the building to show Batman staring at the bat signal. It's just, that was just perfect. And
yeah.
So what's
my number one?
Yeah, I'm intrigued.
It's a little film by Robert Rodriguez from the mid 2000s. It's called Sin City.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
City is the perfect adaptation of a comic book.
That's like a black and white type film, isn't it?
And except for splashes of color. It is very stylized. Frank Miller, who wrote it, was heavily involved with Robert Rodriguez in directing the film. It is practically word for word the comic.
Oh, okay.
Based on it's 3 stories, well, it's 4 stories, from 4 different volumes, because there's 7 volumes of Sin City. So they adapted the first volume, the third, and the fourth, which would be The Hard Goodbye, The Big Fat Kill, and That Yellow Bastard. And then they took one of the stories from Volume 6, which is Booze, Broads, and Bullets, which is a series of short stories that he did later. And they take one of the better ones, and that like bookends the film. It's told out of order because Sin City is often told out of order, because The Hard Goodbye was actually in Dark Horse Presents. It wasn't its own comic. Dark Horse Presents was a series of like short stories. Like there were some Star Wars stories in Dark Horse Presents. There was some Alien stuff. There was some Predator stuff. They did all sorts of stuff. I think there was even Hellboy stuff in Dark Horse Presents. But they did Sin City, and then it took off, and then he did a series of mini-series, which really eventually went off the rails with I can't even remember what Volume 7's called, but it's a nightmare to read. But they literally took, it's like the panels of the comic, with the exception of Jessica Alba's character is not topless throughout the film. But it got a PG-13 rating originally, and then everyone complained and it got an R rating, because it's a very R-rated film.
I've never actually seen it, and I mean, might have to go. Is it like a detective story, or is it just like a
noirs?
Noir, okay.
It's very noir-esque.
Mm-hmm.
Is the best way of describing it. They made a sequel 10 years later, almost 10 years later. And
now that one had that what? I'm sorry.
It's awful.
They had Joseph Gordon-Levitt in that one, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's not even a Frank Miller story that was released. They made that one up, and it's crap. It's based off of the Volume 2, which is A Dame to Kill For, which is what the title comes from. Which that story is fine in there. It's just the rest of them are like, there's another story from Booze, Broads, and Bullets that's in there as well. But everything else that's a new and original contradicts things from the first film.
Oh.
Timeline. Because Marv is the fan favorite character. And Marv's story ends in the first movie. And then he's back in the second movie. And it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And it doesn't fit as a prequel, I will say that. But some of it is prequel-y and some of it isn't, and a lot of it doesn't make sense. Jessica Alba's acting is appalling in the second one. She overacting to an extreme. She becomes the main character for some reason. I don't know.
Huh. I've like I said, I've never seen it, but I don't even like, when did it come out again? It was 10 years.
Came out in 2005.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The second one came out in like 2014.
Like I said, growing up, I was very picky on films, so I'd be willing to give it a shot and check it out, though. But
would highly recommend it.
Okay.
It's very violent, though.
That's very what?
Violent. I don't know if your wife would like it.
Oh, she doesn't mind violence. I mean, she grew up watching Freddy Krueger movies, so she'll be okay.
This is a lot. The women characters in Frank Miller's stuff are not written well.
Oh.
They're either prostitutes or they constantly need sex, and that's like priority one.
That might be a little bit.
Have to get used to when we're reading Frank Miller stuff, but Sin City is the apex of that.
You know, it's weird you mention that. Frank Miller does have a weird thing with prostitutes, because even in the Batman Year One comic, Catwoman was a prostitute. I'm just like,
and in Dark Knight Returns, she has an escort service.
She does. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And in Dark Knight Strikes Again, the band that has what's her face? Who's Green Arrow's like female like counterpart?
Artemis or no?
Black Canary.
Black Canary
is in like a band with like Batgirl and stuff, and they're like a punk rock band. They're overly like sexualized, and that like Green Arrow's like hitting on her, but he's like old enough to be her grandfather at that point. He has this gross like one-armed weirdo look.
Frank Miller.
Frank Miller, you crazy person. Apparently, the rumor is that he witnessed 9/11 and he went insane. And that's why his like later stuff is like super like made by a crazy person. That's why he hasn't written a whole lot.
Oh man.
Or when he does write stuff, someone else has to come in and like bridge it together. You ever read his RoboCop sequels?
Mm-mm.
Absolutely horribly violent and nonsensical. Because he wrote the script for the first RoboCop, and they kind of went with it and then changed it up because some of it was unfilmable.
Oh my gosh.
And then he wrote sequels. He wrote scripts for RoboCops 2 and 3, and they didn't even bother.
Oh my gosh.
They bring in something in RoboCop 3 that was in his RoboCop 2 script. Although they decided that RoboCop's partner was in love with him and like wanted to, it's bizarre.
I'll be honest, I've never seen one RoboCop movie.
Watch the first one.
I saw the first one, like where he's like he like puts someone in a chair and just throws them across a hospital or something like that.
That might be the remake.
I thought that was in the first one, like he puts someone in a wheelchair and just throws them down a hallway or something.
I don't remember that.
Huh.
That should be something we do in Geek Sax Watch Along. We'll watch the original RoboCop, and then probably 2 and not 3. 3 was made for children. The horribly R-rated films. The third one is dumbed down to a PG-13 for children.
But yeah, Frank Miller. Yeah, I was just
Frank Miller's crazy.
I mean, when you mentioned that, about all the prostitutes and everything, I was just like, oh my gosh, like reading a Batman comic. Yeah, I mean, you had like Catwoman who was a prostitute, and then and it was just so crazy. And I'm like, what else did he's written something else I can't remember.
He wrote in the Batman series, or
no, Daredevil.
Yeah, he wrote Daredevil. Every woman wants to sleep with Daredevil in that series.
Well, it was either that.
It isn't even a character. She just wants Daredevil.
And there was like one where he thinks he accidentally killed a girl that was a prostitute, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that happens. I mean, the thing with Daredevil, his Daredevil run's wonderful. He wrote it, I think he's the creator of Elektra, if I'm not mistaken. I think Elektra's his character.
I'm not quite sure. I'll look that up.
He wrote Elektra Assassin, and he and the artist, the story goes, they wrote it over a weekend. It's like a 12-issue miniseries, and they were on Quaaludes.
Oh.
And so it makes no sense whatsoever. They wrote it on Quaaludes.
Wow.
He wrote Ronin. That was another one he did.
Ronin. Who was that?
It was a samurai story, but
okay.
System, and it was in the future.
Okay.
It's dated, but it's pretty decent. Yeah, Frank Miller has an obsession with women being prostitutes, and Alan Moore has the obsession with women being nearly sexually assaulted or sexually assaulted in all of his work.
Well, I was gonna say, if I watch Sin City, that probably might be the deal breaker, and at least for my wife, yeah, because she, I mean, she loves strong female characters, and that might kind of ruin it.
There are some strong female characters. They're just prostitutes. There's a whole subplot with Old Town is run by the hookers.
Oh my gosh.
It's bizarre. It's a bizarre movie, but I do highly recommend it. My parents hated it.
Can't imagine why.
Well, they saw it together, and I really wanted to see it, and they were going to be like, well, if we were going to see it first to see if it's appropriate for you to watch. And then my mom said, that movie is garbage. You're not going to see that. So then I wanted to see it even more.
Yeah. You should have just said like, man, it was all right.
This when it came on Encore like a few years later, I watched it and I was like, oh my god, this is like the best thing I've ever seen in my life.
Well, I think we got through all of our lists, so I think we're gonna go ahead and bring it to a close today. But Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today. And again, we hope that you, as everyone else, is staying safe and just staying healthy as much as you can. And just want to give a shout out to everyone that is like first responders or people working in grocery stores and everything like that. Working their butts off. To make sure that we're all taken care of. Just want to say thank you all so very much for all the hard work that you're doing. And like I said, Jeremy, I hope that you guys are staying safe there as well. And I know that in the area where you lived, it's you guys are officially quarantined, correct?
Pretty much. It's stay at home for the most part. I got laid off, and
I was really sorry to hear about that, man. Sorry. I mean, I hope that you're able to find something, though. I mean,
I put a bunch of videos out. There's a bunch of videos coming.
Yeah, I was gonna say also, like even though that we're all kind of quarantined and we're still gonna put out some videos and podcasts and we're gonna keep everyone entertained and do the very best we can, just make sure to help you guys get through having to stay at home as much as you can. So I mean, that's what we're here for. That's how we would like to help. So we're gonna do our very best. But again, Jeremy, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you all so much for tuning in. And we hope that you guys, again, stay safe, stay healthy, and we will see you guys on the next episode of the NerdPub Podcast. Thank you guys so much, and have a great day.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being on the show.
Later, dude.